Well, welcome to this episode of TAC Tic Talk. We're joined here with Dr. Moe Pisciottano. I'm Dr. Joe Bush with Jacqueline Toussard, publisher of the American Chiropractor magazine. Very excited to be here with you today, Dr. Pisciottano. Where are you at right now?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Dr. Joe. And hi, Jacqueline. Thanks for having me today.
Pittsburgh. Okay, great. So is that where your home base is, out of Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I actually grew up here in the Pittsburgh area and have settled in here after chiropractic school. And so we've been here the entire time and raised three boys and have a wonderful facility here in Pittsburgh, even though it's a little bit of snow here, Dr. Joe. I know you guys aren't familiar with that over here too much, but we like Pittsburgh. It's a safe, great city, and a lot of doctors travel in to see us here. So that's where we've always been, Pittsburgh.
Great people in Pittsburgh. So tell me a bit about your background. You went to chiropractic school. Did you practice as well? Where did you go?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I graduated from the Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport, Iowa, 1989 actually. And I went to chiropractic school, but I was a chiropractic patient from the time I was 3 years old until today. And Dr. Walter Vernon Pierce was my first chiropractor. So that was, a lot of people know that name. That's Walter Vernon Pierce Sr. from the Pierce-Stillwagon technique. And his facility was in Dravosburg, Pennsylvania, happened to be where I grew up. And my father's a barber, and he was asking people about where should I take my son, because I was having a bunch of health challenges, and his name kept coming up. So we went to see Dr. Pierce when I was just 3, and I had seen him until he passed away in 1993. In fact, I own his practice now. I just acquired it this past year in February. And my wife, Dr. Lori, is actually, while we're speaking here, she's seeing patients at the Pierce original clinic that he started in the late 50s. So there's a lot of history of our products, which we'll get to because of Dr. Pierce. Mm-hmm. So it was inevitable that at some point that I would take over the practice. So anyway,
I've been seeing you at these shows, at the trade shows and the vendor halls, and obviously I know you from the ProAdjuster group, but I had never heard that whole relationship even with Pierce Clinic. So that's amazing. And even your wife as well. That's amazing. Literally walking the talk. We love to see that.
It's kind of an interesting part of the whole ProAdjuster story, Jacqueline, because Dr. Pierce started the original work with a precision spinal adjuster in the late 80s. And he really wasn't that interested in it working because he was a hands-only guy, very vocal about that. And it worked really, really well. And he was very surprised. Anyway, so multiple years later, when he passed away in 1993, I stepped in where he stepped out. And a number of years later, we released the ProAdjuster. The first brand of ProAdjuster was at the end of the year 2000, 2000. So it's been a long time now that we've had those products in the field.
Wow.
It is. We're over 24 years later, how fast time goes. So you are the CEO and founder of the ProAdjuster group, and it seems to have evolved over the years. Can you explain to me how you got into this business of selling equipment to chiropractors?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to do it. It really wasn't a lifelong dream, Dr. Joe, I'll tell you. What happened was I opened up my first practice in 1990, and mid-1990 I joined a program with David Singer, and most people know his name, and I learned how to build a large practice. So I had one of the largest practices in the country. And David asked me if I would start teaching some of his clients. So I went on the road and started teaching seminars, and one thing led to another. And so I built a big following of doctors who wanted to do our kinds of work, which was basically technology-based because of Dr. Pierce. He had multiple patents and multiple inventions, and he developed the dermathermograph. He advanced the original adjusting instrument and several other things. Motion X-ray, he was originator of that in our industry that John Postlewaite kind of took over and has the DMX now. So it all started with Dr. Pierce and his innovation. And since he was my guy, so to speak, I kind of picked up on that methodology. And so when Dr. Pierce died, I wanted to continue the work. and instrument adjusting was one of those things. So, but I still do the motion X-ray work, and I still have a large van with a motion X-ray inside of it, so we can do our research. And you probably can't see it behind me. Yeah, you actually can see behind me on one of the TVs. In fact, that's the DMX when we're using it to evaluate the adjusting instruments. So.
Sure.
I think what happened, Joe, is it sort of just evolved, and we're now in 42 countries and a calculated 1 million adjustments a week being delivered by our technologies in one way or another. So it's made much more of an impact than I had in the original plan. I'll say it that way.
Tremendous footprint. So I remember, originally when you were going around speaking at schools, I think I saw you speak at Parker at one point. When I was still in chiropractic school in Parker, and you were describing some of the technology that you had on there about assessing the intersegmental motion and application of the adjustment. Is that the same technology now being used as was presented all the time ago? Or
yeah, great question. Well, is the technology still being used? Absolutely, because we have doctors literally all over the world, and some of them, quite surprisingly, are using the original instruments that they purchased from us like in 2000 and 2001 and 2002. It's just crazy how long this technology has lasted. But like everything else, we've evolved the technology. So this is not the same technology today as it once was. Like this newest one, which is called the ProAdjuster SRT, is all new technology with new features. But we've basically taken that, 25 plus years, that culmination, if you will, of learning what works on patients and what gives us a better biomechanical change and what speeds really matter and when should it speed up and when should it slow down, when should it stop. All those things evolved over this quarter century, we'll call it. So the SRT is, what I call the best of the best because of our length of time doing it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Perfect. So that's the new model that chiropractors can buy right now. How would they go about ordering one of these? Or are you demoing them in different areas, or how does one experience this?
This is our newest model, and we released it last year around the FCA time. So it's been out a little more than a year, actually a little longer than that even. And they can see demonstrations at different places that we are. They can come to our facility in Pittsburgh. We have a lot of videos online. Now people, they look at videos and say, oh, I see how that works. And they'll just call up and order it. It's not like it used to be when we first released the technology. Everybody wanted to see it, touch it, and feel it. But when you're in 42 countries and touching 1 million people a week, the credibility precedes them needing to see, touch, and feel so many more times than it used to. So anyway, there's lots of different ways we can do that. We're going to Life College next week, and I think we're in Orlando with Breakthrough Coaching 2 weeks after that, and then we have a BOCA seminar. So we're out and about, not that much different than we used to, Joe. We're out, we're floating around. That's
You're everywhere
sometimes, right, Jack?
Very good.
Well, I wanted to just ask really quick too then. So is this new device something that even an existing ProAdjuster customer is interested in getting, or is it simply, or that's what I'm wondering about the features on it. Is it such that they're looking to get on board with that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, probably 80% of all of the SRT sales are to someone who already had a ProAdjuster because they're convinced of the technology, they're convinced it works, their patients love it. So, it's a shorter road for them to make a decision because they already like the brand, so to speak.
Well, that's a great testimonial right there.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Moe, I was noticing also, because you're advertising with the American Chiropractor currently, and I've been looking at your ads, of course. And so you're bringing on new technology. As a matter of fact, we're fortunate to have you as an author with us. And even in the September issue here, we had an article on enhanced balance and fall prevention in U.S. Veterans Health Administration hospitals. So this was something that I didn't realize that you were actually, doing until I had seen what you wrote about and some of the technology that you're offering now. How does the ProAdjuster interface with balance?
Yeah, great question. So how we got into this balance work is not even related necessarily to the ProAdjuster. What happened was we had noticed, because we have multiple clinics and obviously thousands of connections to other facilities, that there was this challenge of balance and stability and coordination and proprioception, and a high-speed instrument helps improve those neural pathways. So about 8 years ago, I started doing work with this balance and coordination and found a significant improvement clinically. But we didn't have a way to test it and evaluate and really determine, like, what's really wrong with somebody when you want to evaluate their balance and coordination. So we sought out to find some technologies that we could integrate into our model. And so we developed something called the ProBalance 360. And it's a system that's unrelated to the ProAdjuster, other than it starts with PRO. And it's a sophisticated FDA-cleared product that allows us to assess and do therapeutic improvement procedures on patients with balance and coordination problems. And so we've started this introduction of this technology. We have it all over the country. And we started presenting it to the United States government and the VA system. And so our product is the ProBalance 360 is the only product on the federal government's what's called FSS schedule, the Federal Supply Schedule, which means any VA hospital, any location operated by the federal government could literally go on their computer and say, I want a balance machine, and ours is the only one in the market space. And
wow, that's fantastic.
So it's really cool because it's helping so many people, not just even people that are veterans or older. We even have a very sophisticated platform, which is the one on the right, and it's for performance. You know, a lot of people are into pickleball and tennis and golf, and they just want to hike and bike better and walk, and they just want to improve their performance. And so that's really what's behind me. We call it a performance center. And so the balance has really taken off because it's such a significant problem. 85% of people who are tested will fail a basic balance test. And even if there's 5 or 10 or 25 people or 100 people in an audience, sometimes I'll have them stand up and do a basic balance test. 85% fail, even chiropractors. So there's a lot of piles of research. You know, let me see that real quick if I could. You know, piles of research on balance and coordination. And I mean, this is just a part of it. And it's continuing to grow. Very, very popular. And a lot of our clients who are ProAdjuster clients see it and just call up and say, hey, how does this thing work? I want to add balance therapy into our office. So it's been very popular. That's why I wrote about it for the most recent edition of American Chiropractor.
No, I love it. And the fact that you're doing it in the VA is just a group of people, but it has applications for the entire population. As a chiropractor, I mean, I see it, the risks associated with fall. I mean, you know, we all know someone who's experienced a loved one who's had a hard ending of their life associated with a fall. So
yeah, no question.
Now, is it just exercises in addition to the ProAdjuster? Is it the ProAdjuster alone, or how does that, like, when you get working with that?
Yeah, so we have a lot of clients that don't have the ProAdjuster at all that have the ProBalance 360, and the federal government being one of them. So they're two independent products. And so the system, the ProBalance 360, what it allows us to do, if I can maybe just have Matt, if you want to just jump on there, maybe you could see him.
I was going to ask Dr. Moe. I was understanding we were going to get to see some demonstrations.
Yeah, this would probably be the best way. It's kind of interesting. I was just at the Houston VA a few weeks ago, and I was invited there, and in the audience, a small audience of about a dozen people, but all the senior directors, like director of emergency room, director of orthopedics, director of PT, like really a high-powered group. And we were at about an hour into the meeting, and they kept asking questions, and I kept answering them, and it was going terrific because they're going to do a big research project that starts October 1st. And a multi-million-dollar grant was approved to do research, and they're using ProBalance, the device, to do this research. Anyway, long story short, they were asking questions, and I said, how about you guys just stand up and come over and just jump right on? Let me just show you how it works. And it's the easiest way to demonstrate it because we try to explain it. It's like a video game that people play with their hands, but it's your feet are on this plate. And so if Matt turns around and faces the computer, and we have their feet right on that plate, and that plate has a very sophisticated set of sensors in it that sends through Bluetooth 100 messages a second to the computer. So it's actually measuring how a person moves or sways. We do tests with eyes open and eyes closed. We do standing on one leg. We do standing on both legs. We can also do some dynamic studies, and it records everything and prints it out on a very sophisticated report, but really simple. And within 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, just under 5, which the government was blown away by because it takes them an hour and a half to assess a veteran if they're a fall risk, and we can do it in 5 minutes. In fact, they weren't even sure that we could do it in 5 minutes. We had to make them a time-coded video, and it was like just under 5 minutes, and the test was done, and it was a unanimous approval to use the grant money for this big research because it would save them so much time and clearly more accurate. But you know what I wanted, Jacqueline and Joe? I didn't want a machine that just tested people. There's other machines you can get that just test balance. I found clinically, after doing this for over 30 years, people don't want a better diagnosis. They want to get better. They don't care what name's on it. They want to get better. They want to prevent problems and injuries. So this particular device does both a therapeutic an evaluation for the therapy and the therapies. And so we basically we took a bunch of games. We've gamified the therapy, so it's a blast. People just have a great time. We have Matt, if you can maybe even pull up can we pull a closer screen maybe? If I can go closer to the screen, I can point a few things out. Would that be okay?
Sure. Yeah. Definitely.
And certainly you could ask me anything you like, but this particular device has 2 different plates. One is what we call our essential plate, and the essential plate sits flat on the ground and doesn't wobble around, but it has a set of sensors in it, actually 4 very sophisticated ones. And then if I show you on this other plate, it actually is like a sophisticated wobble board with a bunch of sensors and an air bladder in it. And what you can actually do on this one is not only maneuver it all around in different directions, but the computer's recording that in real time. And what it additionally does is it has a gauge on it so that we can put different amounts of air pressure in there. So if you were a sophisticated professional athlete, we would put less air in it, and that thing wobbles all around. But if we wanted to make it a little less difficult, we just pump up the air, and it's has a pump on the side and a gauge on the plate. So we're able to really take people from what I'll call a fall risk, maybe a middle-aged person, to somebody who's an 18-year-old that wants to be a motocross specialist but wants to really improve their proprioception. So we just widen the band with these 2 plates. And it uses the same computer, and the computer both can do the evaluation and also the therapy. So we made it very simple interface. The blue is the evaluation and the red is the therapy. And so if we want to do the evaluation, we can do 2-leg or 1. We also have the ability to do cognitive baseline evaluations, Parkinson's baselines, limits of stability, and a lot of other cool things, which I won't go into each one. But when we do the therapy, once we figure out what's wrong with someone, we actually can do a static therapy where when you're standing on the plate, you can actually control it. It's a touch screen. And so there's times and certain therapies that you have to balance on the plate and reach forward and touch the screen at the same time. So we've tied some of these cognitive processes together. I won't get into it too much detail, but we have a program. You put 3D goggles on, and you can really do some cool, like post-concussion work and some work where people are really having challenges with their memory. And again, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds, but we've got some really cool stuff, and we've been working on it for quite some time. We have 8 different games. We call them the gamification piece. So this one is pretty neat. When a person stands on the plate, they can be it's called the Tux Racer, and it's a penguin basically just lays down on their belly, and you ski down the mountain, but you're on the plate skiing, so you're watching the screen. And it's kind of neat because when people have their attention on on the process, and they're trying to play a particular game. I don't know if you can go real close to that, Matt. Or can you guys see that? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. It looks cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see the penguin there, and what I'll do, I'll just kind of stand on it just to move him back and forth so you can kind of see.
Mm-hmm.
And you could slow him down, and you can speed him up, and what you're trying to do is knock these fish down, and you can basically have competition. So we have this coming weekend, we have a big seminar, and we have if I turned you around, you see we have a big seminar room in our facility. We have about 100 doctors coming in. And we're going to play a game on our performance plate, and keep track of it and score. And what we might even be able to do is they're talking about, they're putting some rules together. We're going to have like an Olympics, so we'll have like a gold and a silver and a bronze winner. And we know that the people they just love this because they want to beat the score of the other person, you know.
Sure.
And so it's put a lot of fun in a practice, Dr. Joe, and you know how important that is to keep patients excited and integrated and wanting to be better than they were yesterday or the day before. We have a 89-year-old lady that's doing phenomenal in her therapy. So age doesn't seem to matter. We're able to rehabilitate them. So we're really excited about the technology. It's helping a lot of people.
It's really interesting with that neurodegenerative component, the Parkinson's, the CTE that you hear so much about, the concussion, dementia. They all seem to have this balance issue. So if you can start to retrain that, the sky's the limit on how you can impact the rest of their life.
Yeah, and there's piles of research too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's in the spirit of Dr. Pierce, right? You've got that technology kind of theme woven through this.
For sure.
Now, so chiropractors are using the ProAdjuster. They're using this. They can be standalone or in conjunction, right?
Right.
Is there anything else you've been bringing on since the ProAdjuster came on, or is there anything else chiropractors should know out there that they may want to visit Pittsburgh?
Yeah, the other thing we've added on based on our years of doing this, what we figured out is using the ProAdjuster, when you're tapping the tissue, that rate of speed, which went between 9 and 12 cycles per second, usually, that 9 to 12 cycles, that seemed like that was the magic zone. And what we found over time is that the joints, the spine, as well as the extremity joints, responded the best between 8 and 14 cycles per second, and that's the speed at which it's hitting. And then we also found the soft tissue of all the body areas responded better between 16 and 21. So it wasn't exactly one machine that worked perfectly. So we would have never known this because we only had a technology that just went the one speed. So as time went along, and why so recently we released this ProAdjuster SRT, is we have one gun, if you will, one instrument handle that goes for the soft tissue and one for the adjusting speed tissue. And so one's called ProSoft SRT and one's called ProAdjuster SRT. And can you get a shot of that if you zoomed in? I think it may clarify it a little bit for them. So the way we've set this up is maybe similar to what you guys are used to seeing in the past, except now the soft tissue instrument is on its own on the right. And if I showed you the speed, I hope the computer will allow me to show you this. Were you able to pick up the sound difference of speed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's.
Okay. So this device goes 16 cycles per second up to 21, and it also picks up the speed and the force. So that's why I called it SRT, which is simultaneous ramp treatment. And so what's happening is the speed's increasing and the force is increasing at the same time, but at 16 to 24 cycles or 21 cycles per second. And then the adjusting instrument is off on the other side, and it has the interchangeable tips like most people are familiar with the ProAdjuster, except we've added some designs. And in this case, the SRT ProAdjuster ramps between 8 and 14 cycles per second. And that particular demonstration, it ramps 3 different times. So as a chiropractor, most people understand this philosophy now that we have an instrument that does it. And that is, as you pick up the motion, as you're increasing the motion of the motor unit, you need more force and more frequency to keep the swing rate alive. So what we're finding is, you can go back to that other shot. What we're finding is that it takes about 1/3 the amount of energy and time to treat with an SRT than the original instrument that we released back in 2000, because of that force and frequency enhancement.
That's fascinating. So, how are you measuring the change of the patient? Do you have does that have some kind of assessment associated with it, or?
There's multiple sensors in the instruments, but what we found is the resonant frequency of the motor unit was the most important thing that we thought back then, because it helped us pick up the speed. So the early ProAdjuster you did an analysis first, and then you picked which one you wanted to adjust, and then it would calculate the speed of the adjustment. So when you made the adjustment, it matched the resonant frequency at a subharmonic. What we found is, if you sweep the frequency, like what I just shared, it goes from 8 to 14, you always pick the right frequencies within that zone. So we don't need to now do the analysis pre and post, because we're going to sweep all the tissues anyway. And what we found is, with this new tip design, we're actually adjusting 2 or 3 vertebrae at a time instead of 1 now, because it used to be you'd only have a dual probe instrument. Now we have 3, so it has 6 attachments or locations. And so we're actually able to adjust the whole motor unit at one time. And if you look at our DMX study, if you happen to got close enough to watch that, you'll see a lot of the work we do, we release it based on doing this DMX or motion studies, so that we know we're getting the motion. We can see the motion. We can see the joints moving. So it's really been a fun research experience over the last couple of years with the SRT. And I'm really proud of my partnership with Chris Kaloka, who most everybody knows because he has the impulse adjusting system. His firm actually makes the 2 instruments, both ProSoft SRT and the ProAdjuster SRT, at the same facility that he makes his instruments, but he makes mine for my specification.
Well, that's fascinating. That's great. Yeah, chiropractors working together. So
yeah, imagine that. It does happen, and it can work.
Happy to hear it's working. So, what is the biggest trend that you see in chiropractic? Is that one of these devices that would influence that, or I mean, is there something you picked up?
I would say the thing that I'm seeing the most, and we got our hand on a pretty big footprint, is that chiropractors are really seeing the value of technology. I think more than ever before, maybe because of the average age of the chiropractor today compared to 20 or 30 years ago, I'm not sure, but they clearly are looking for metrics now. I think a lot of chiropractors are learning that you can manage by metrics your business, you can manage patients by metrics. And look, frankly, the consumer's different than they used to be. We've both been at this long enough that these consumers are very different than they used to be. They come in more educated, and they want evidence-based care. And so much so now that with all the technologies that are available, even integrating technologies, I think, is the future. And so whether it's decompression or functional medicine or adjustment technology or balance types of technologies, I think the trend is going to be chiropractors really want to be known in their communities to be the highest technologically advanced chiropractor in town. That's the trend I'm seeing.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Moe, I see there's one more device that you haven't introduced behind you.
I was going to ask about that too. I see a third thing back there. Have we missed something, Dr. Moe, or is that just
we didn't talk about that one yet. That's called the ProMotion MMT, and that device is a very sophisticated, high-speed system that we developed with 153 different motion-based protocols. We call it mechanical motion therapy. So it's the use of a high-speed instrument, sort of like the ProSoft SRT, but for a different set of outcomes, which is flexibility, motion, improving a person's coordination. And a lot of people are interested in improving their sports and activities. So we've integrated a lot of these motion-based protocols, hips, knees, foot and ankle, shoulder, elbow, you get it. And we built this in as a therapy because of two reasons. One, it really works, which helps people get results. And number two, the other trend that I'm seeing is chiropractors are not necessarily interested in working harder. They want to see more people. They want to help more people. They want to increase their revenues. They want their practice to do better, but they don't necessarily want to do all the work. Generally,
Nobody
chiropractors...
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's headed further in that direction, right? So we developed our most recent technologies the last number of years have been services, lanes of service, that chiropractors can offer their patients and community, but delegate the service to some other person other than a chiropractor. So the balance is something that a doctor can delegate to an assistant, exercise physiologist or a trainer are great matchups. The ProMotion MMT can be delegated to an assistant. And so you can get all this soft tissue work done and this balance and proprioception work done, and the chiropractor could just manage the chiropractic piece, but be able to delegate and assist and help more people. And in the old days, everybody talked about, when I first started, it was all about see more new patients and see more visits, and that's what we did. I had a practice seeing 700 visits a week by myself, no associates. I was running around like a nut. Then I would go do seminars. And today, to even think seeing I don't even think I'd want to say hello to 700 people a week, just waving, right? It's a very different environment. And
you never looked like a nut, Mo. You always looked amazing.
But I guess the thing is that, look, as trends change, as the environment changes, we want to be just a little ahead of the curve. I always say that, I want to show our clients where the puck is going, not where the puck is. And that's the best players in a game know where the ball's going or the puck's going. And so
he said puck, not anything else with a P. People who don't watch hockey.
A puck, with a P, exactly. You got to know where the puck is going, right?
Just
and
wanted
it's
to
going
clarify.
fast, by the way. It's going fast.
They can't see you swinging at a puck on the ice. So, it's like Pittsburgh.
Thanks for clarifying that.
We have an international audience, Mo. So is this multi-language or...
Yeah, exactly.
Is the ProMotion, do you have Spanish and Portuguese, for example, or
we don't, and all of it's motion-based videos and pictures. So we designed it that way so that all of our doctors in all the countries that use our products can learn them pretty easily.
Okay, great. Now, phenomenal. I'm so happy we could get you on the podcast today because I definitely needed to know about the new products you have with the balance as well as the motion, but the updates on your ProAdjuster too. This is a huge opportunity for any chiropractor out there that's been doing this in the past that wants to upgrade, and you have that partnership with Neuromechanical. So definitely that sounds like another step ahead.
Yeah, and the other thing I didn't mention to you guys that might be worthy of mentioning is we have a really sophisticated patient education system built in to all of our platforms, but the ProAdjuster SRT has one of what we'll call the newest version of the Visual Odyssey program. And can we get a close-up of that, Matt? Maybe you could even just pull it up for me and I'll come over and demo it. We have some really cool animation that we built in because that's available in today's environment. But, I've partnered with Bruce Goldsmith from Visual Odyssey, which everybody seems to know Bruce. And we've been together for, 20 some odd years. And so we worked together on, what I'll call the newest version of it. But it's iconic, because it's right on their ProAdjuster so you can flip back and forth. But, most people know of this particular screen, but there are so many more. Where you can light up the innervation. Can you get a close-up on that? Yeah. You can get, the innervations. We have the ability, and I'll skip my hand out of the screen. But, we have a really cool menu. so we can pull up the muscles just like you used to be able to. You can enhance the tissue and change the levels. We can go into posture, and we have one that just lights up just for the headaches. And then what we're able to also do inside of the new ProAdjuster is that we have the ability now to also do these different videos. So, if I just pulled up the shoulder, for example, we have the protocols built into our system. And we have this whole program called SRT PhD, which shows the DMX studies, the neuropathylator, and these really cool videos. So we've embarked on this where every single body part has its own animation. And we even have a patent pending on this piece of our patient education, where we've taken a video and we've what we call a backdrop system. So the doctor could say anything they want while the video is playing, and it rolls through a series, and this one happens to be the shoulder. But since we've taken every one of the body parts, we show the inflammation, we show the person without the problem, we show the person with the problem. So it follows this educational sequence. And doctors have told us, in addition to what we had with Bruce Goldsmith with Visual Odyssey, it just enhanced it to another level. But I love what Bruce has done over the years, and I think it's such a great way to educate patients. Even if you didn't have a ProAdjuster, I think it's a great tool to have. And I know you guys know him pretty well, and he's been around the profession a long time. He's a good character.
We certainly do. And that is fascinating and very comprehensive that you have there. So, well, Dr. Moe, I think that our time is almost up. I know you're a very busy man. So someone who wants to come to Pittsburgh and visit with your clinic there, or at least, witness some of these devices, how do they get in touch with you?
I think probably the easiest way is if they want to just go on one of our websites, like learnproadjuster.com, and our phone number's there, and they could email us through there, and they could call our offices. Whatever's easiest for the consumer today, we're here and available to help.
Perfect. And look for the ads in the American Chiropractor magazine. They've got a QR code. Scan it, fill in your information.
And of course, the
Dr. Moe,
articles. The upcoming
and
articles.
look for Dr. Moe's articles in the in-brief section.
There you go.
So
thank you.
We're excited to have those coming forth. Thank you to everyone out there listening. Be sure to look for the next issue of the American Chiropractor in the mailbox. And
thanks so much for your time. Have a great afternoon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You too.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.